I want you to imagine something for a second. Just, picture this. You are sitting at your favorite corner cafe. You've got a fresh coffee right there in front of you.
Sounds pretty good so far.
Right. But, well, you have this massive, totally intimidating to-do list.
Yeah.
You need to build a comprehensive, 40-page business plan from scratch.
Oh, wow. Good thing.
Yeah, and you need to generate a whole suite of localized brand images for a new marketing campaign. You have to research an incredibly complex, niche academic topic to put together a client proposal. And, just to finish it off, you need to edit a couple of short, punchy videos for your social media channels.
I mean, a to-do list like that used to represent an entire agency's worth of work. You'd be coordinating, a copywriter, a graphic designer, a researcher, a video editor.
Yeah, over the course of a full week, easily.
Exactly.
But in this scenario, you are just one person sitting at a cafe, and you are planning to do every single one of those things for absolutely $0.
Which sounds completely impossible.
Right. But today is Monday, April 6th, 2026. And Google is looking you straight in the eye and claiming that their Gemini AI ecosystem can do all of that, for free.
Yeah.
They are promising a digital assistant that handles text, image, audio, video without ever asking for a credit card. So we really have to figure out if it is truly, quote unquote, unlimited,
right,
or if that is just a shiny marketing illusion.
Well, the word unlimited rarely exists in the technology sector without some heavy caveats.
True.
There is always a hidden cost or, a structural ceiling somewhere.
And we are hunting down that ceiling today. So our mission for this deep dive is to completely strip away the marketing jargon and look at the actual mechanics. We've pulled together official Google documentation, we scrutinized their updated April 2026 limit pages, and we're bringing in independent reviews from CNET, 9 to 5 Google, and PC Mag.
And we're even digging into academic papers on AI compute efficiency to understand the reality of what happens when you actually hit enter.
Right. Because we are going to map out the anatomy of this free tier, compare it to the premium paid tiers, and reveal how developers are, legally navigating around these restrictions to get massive volume without paying.
It's going to be really interesting.
I keep coming back to this all-you-can-eat buffet analogy.
But I like that.
Because it's like they put up a massive sign advertising bottomless plates, right? But then the restaurant secretly cuts you off, or the kitchen suddenly starts bringing out the food agonizingly slowly after your second round.
Yeah.
To understand if Google is running that kind of buffet, we have to look at the menu they're offering to get you in the door in the first place.
Well, the menu in 2026 has expanded to surround almost everything you do. I mean, Gemini has completely erased the old Bard branding. It's gone.
Completely gone.
Right. And now it's structurally integrated into the digital tools you use every single day.
Oh.
So it drafts your Gmail, it analyzes your spreadsheets in Drive, it summarizes 2-hour-long YouTube videos in seconds.
Which is wild. And the default engine running that everyday experience is Gemini 3 Flash.
Yes. It's fast, it handles simple logic well, but it's clearly not the main attraction. Google is basically dangling access to Gemini 3.1 Pro.
The thinking mode.
Right, the thinking mode. They dangle that as the premium offering. And they've also added Nano Banana for image generation and VO 3.1 for video.
Yeah, and offering all of this powerhouse tech for free seems highly counterintuitive.
Seriously.
Because building and running these multimodal models costs billions, literally billions, in infrastructure alone.
So what does this all mean for the user? Are they basically just giving us the lighter Flash model for free and just, dangling the shiny Pro model in front of us as bait?
It makes complete sense when you view it as an aggressive loss leader strategy.
Okay, hold this up.
Google is deliberately taking a financial hit on the compute costs to build immediate, unbreakable habituation. They want your daily workflow so deeply entrenched in their ecosystem that opening a competitor's interface like, Claude or ChatGPT
feels like a chore. Exactly. It feels like an unnecessary chore. And on top of that, they are continually harvesting vast amounts of anonymized interactions to refine their next generation of models.
So they are essentially trading server time for market dominance.
Pretty much.
They give you a taste of the 3.1 Pro model, just enough to see how brilliantly it solves complex logic puzzles or coding errors, but they intentionally restrict it so you can't run a full-scale enterprise operation on it.
Right.
Which takes us out of the marketing promises and straight into the invisible walls.
And those constraints become very obvious when you look at the raw April 2026 data.
Yeah, I was looking at the actual quota breakdowns, and the prompt limits on the free tier for the 3.1 Pro model are surprisingly tight. You only get about 30 prompts per day.
30.
30. I mean, if you were deep in an iterative brainstorming session, tweaking the tone of a document, you can burn through 30 prompts before your coffee even gets cold.
Yeah, and the transition when you hit that limit is designed to be subtle. The system doesn't lock you out or display a massive stop sign.
It doesn't.
No, it quietly defaults your subsequent queries back to the less sophisticated Gemini 3 Flash model.
Oh, wow.
So users often don't even realize what happened until they notice the AI's responses suddenly lack nuance or it starts missing complex multi-step instructions.
That is sneaky. And the visual tools have even harder stops. The Nano Banana image generator gives you a strict limit of 20 images a day.
Which is nothing for a designer.
Right. If you were a designer iterating on a concept, trying to get the lighting or the composition just right, 20 generations is gone in a flash. And you also only get 20 audio overviews per day.
And the throttling gets far more aggressive with the really intensive research tools.
The deep research feature is a perfect example of this. It's a phenomenal tool, right? It autonomously scours the web, reads dozens of articles, and synthesizes massive reports.
It's incredible.
But the free tier caps that at just 5 reports per month, not per day, per month.
Yeah, that's a hard wall.
And features like dynamic view tap out at around 25 prompts daily. But honestly, out of all these numbers, the metric that fundamentally dictates what you can and cannot do is the context window.
The memory limit.
Exactly.
Context windows dictate the entire utility of an AI.
So on the free tier, you are capped at about 32,000 tokens of context, whereas the paid plans open up to a massive 1 million tokens.
We should probably define that for the listener because tokens is a very opaque developer term.
Yeah, good call. So a token is roughly 3/4 of a standard English word. So 32,000 tokens translates to roughly 24,000 words.
Which is what, maybe the first 80 pages of a standard paperback book.
Give or take, yeah. Contrast that with the 1 million token premium window, which can hold several thick textbooks, financial transcripts, and code bases simultaneously in its active memory without forgetting a single line.
It's a massive difference.
Right, so here's where it gets really interesting. Having a 32K context window instead of a million means that by the time you reach page 81 of your project, the AI has completely forgotten what happened on page 1. It operates like someone with severe short-term memory loss. The system is mechanically dropping the oldest information out of the back of its brain to make room for your new prompts.
And that creates immense friction for anyone trying to, say, write a novel, analyze a long legal contract, or build complex software architecture over a multi-day conversation.
Yeah. And if the AI is technically capable of holding 1 million tokens, imposing a 32K limit feels like, I don't know, an artificial roadblock designed solely to force you into a $19.99 monthly subscription.
It definitely feels that way at first glance.
But I was reading through the academic sources we pulled, specifically the ArcViv papers detailing the mixture of experts architecture running inside Gemini, and it completely reframes why these limits exist.
Absolutely.
It looks less like corporate greed and more like a desperate attempt to manage the laws of physics.
Because the physical constraints of global compute are severe.
Let me try to break down this mixture of experts concept, because it fascinated me. I initially thought of Gemini as one massive, omniscient artificial brain that processes every single word I type.
A lot of people think that.
Right. But the architecture actually functions more like a massive corporate campus filled with thousands of hyper-specialized departments.
That is the exact mechanism, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of pushing a prompt through the entire neural network, a routing algorithm intercepts your question.
Okay.
So if you ask it to solve a calculus equation, the router wakes up the specific subnetwork, the expert, trained on mathematics, leaving the creative writing and video generation networks totally dormant.
So it routes the query to the accounting department instead of paging the whole company.
Exactly.
Which sounds incredibly efficient on paper.
It is vastly more efficient than legacy models. But we are still talking about an operation happening at a planetary scale.
Right.
When you ask Gemini for a complex, deep research report, you are engaging thousands of high-performance GPUs housed in massive data centers.
And those processors generate heat.
An immense amount of heat. Cooling systems, which often require massive amounts of water and industrial HVAC units, have to immediately kick into overdrive to keep the silicon from literally melting.
Wait, so whenever I ask Gemini to, casually rewrite a polite email to my boss because I'm feeling lazy, there's actual heavy computational machinery whirring away in a server farm somewhere.
Yep.
Burning through physical electricity just to calculate the precise level of corporate politeness I need. No wonder they have to put a cap on it.
Every single prompt carries a tangible energy cost. If
Yeah.
we connect this to the bigger picture, if Google allowed unlimited, unthrottled access to the 3.1 Pro model for all 2 billion of their active users simultaneously,
Your power grid would just snap.
the data centers would
Mhm.
physically overload. So the dynamic rate limits are an engineering necessity. They democratize the access, ensuring that a handful of power users generating thousands of complex video scripts don't hoard the compute resources needed by millions of casual users trying to organize their calendars.
Okay, understanding the physical reality definitely makes the limits much more palatable. But acknowledging the boundaries also makes me want to find out how people are pushing past them, naturally. Because if the front door is guarded by these strict 30 prompt quotas, developers must be using a side door. Nobody building actual software is going to tolerate being cut off after 20 minutes of work.
The side door absolutely exists, and the funny thing is, it happens to be wide open to the public.
Really?
It's called Google AI Studio.
Right. Just go to asstudio.google.com. The interface is definitely positioned for software engineers. I mean, it talks about API keys and deployment, but you don't actually need to know how to code to use the playground area.
Not at all. You can just type directly into the system instructions panel. And by stepping out of the glossy consumer interface and into this developer environment, the quota restrictions fundamentally change.
How much change are we talking?
If you select the Gemini 2.5 model or the highly efficient Gemini 3 flashlight, the free tier suddenly grants you between 1,000 and 1,500 requests per day.
1,500 requests compared to the 30 we get on the standard Pro interface?
Exactly.
I mean, you aren't getting the absolute bleeding-edge thinking mode for all of those, but jumping from 30 to 1,500 completely removes the bottleneck for anyone doing long, continuous text tasks like formatting data or generating basic code.
It feels unlimited for prototyping.
Yeah. It's less about finding a secret hack and more about just walking in through the loading dock. You're using the raw infrastructure meant for builders.
And the ecosystem also has massive carve-outs for specific demographics. The student deals currently active in 2026 are completely unprecedented.
Yeah, if you're a student, you basically have a VIP pass that bypasses the bouncer at the club. If you are enrolled in a verified university program, Google is granting up to 15 months of the Google AI Pro tier completely for free.
Which is huge. That unlocks the massive context window, the advanced video generation, the uncapped limit.
They are clearly aiming to capture the next generation of professionals before they even graduate.
Oh, without a doubt. And beyond AI Studio and student deals, many powerful tools simply don't count against your daily quotas at all.
Yeah.
The AI overviews baked directly into standard Google search are processed separately. Casual use of Gemini to summarize threads inside workspace apps like Gmail or Docs operates under a reasonable use policy rather than a hard daily counter.
Which is great.
And then there's Notebook LM.
Oh, Notebook LM completely shifts how you interact with dense information. You upload a messy stack of PDFs, research papers, or meeting notes, and it doesn't just read them. It maps out the key claims and synthesizes the material.
It's amazing for research.
It can even generate an automated two-host audio discussion, basically an instant podcast, analyzing your specific documents. It isolates the facts, maps them to dialogue templates, and runs it through text-to-speech models.
And in most standard use cases, that incredibly complex synthesis is entirely free.
But with all these separate tools and differing limits, a common user reaction is to try and outsmart the architecture.
Oh yeah, the immediate instinct is to create multiple Google accounts and bounce between them when a quota runs out.
Juggling 5 different burner emails just to get 100 extra AI-generated images.
Which is a terrible idea.
Really bad.
Google's telemetry in 2026 tracks IP addresses, browser fingerprinting, and behavioral patterns with extreme precision.
Yeah.
Actively cycling through accounts to bypass rate limits is a direct violation of their terms of service.
And what happens if they catch you?
It frequently triggers automated permanent account suspensions.
Risking a permanent ban on your primary Google account? I mean, losing a decade of emails, your Google Drive files, your family photos, just to generate a few extra pictures of a dog surfing on Nana Banana is a catastrophic miscalculation.
Seriously, it's not worth it.
Play by the rules, utilize AI Studio for volume, but accept that for a certain segment of power users, the side doors simply aren't going to be enough.
Which forces the inevitable decision, evaluating the paid tiers.
Yeah. Based on the independent benchmark testing from our sources, let's look at what actually happens when you open your wallet. The entry-level upgrade is Google AI Plus, sitting at roughly $7.99 a month.
And the Plus tier operates as a pressure release valve. It increases your daily allowance from 30 pro prompts to 100.
Okay.
It also expands the context window significantly, so the model retains the memory of your ongoing conversation for much longer stretches of work.
Moving up from there is the flagship tier, Google AI Pro, at $19.99 a month.
This is where the structural limits practically disappear for a solo worker.
You get 500 pro prompts daily, your image generations jump to 100 a day, you get unrestricted access to VO 3.1 for high-fidelity video production, deep research becomes a daily tool rather than a monthly novelty, and they even bundle it with 5 terabytes of cloud storage.
For the vast majority of professionals, the Pro tier offers more capacity than they could physically use in a 24-hour period.
Right.
There's an Ultra tier at $249.99 a month, but that is strictly an enterprise solution.
Yeah, that's for like unlimited video rendering and deploying autonomous AI agents that run processes in the background without human supervision.
Exactly.
So, looking at those price points, the verdict from testers at CNET and PC Mag is highly illuminating. They ran head-to-head benchmarking, and the consensus is that Google's free tier is extraordinarily capable.
Oh, very much so.
They noted that the Gemini 3 Flash model is demonstrably faster at everyday text processing than the free tier equivalent over at ChatGPT.
What's fascinating here is that the engineering strategy becomes so clear. The free tier isn't a broken or restricted trial.
No.
It is actively optimized to be perfectly adequate for about 90% of casual users. It handles grocery meal planning, email drafting, casual research, without ever hitting a limit.
The crucial question is identifying the exact threshold where upgrading to that $19.99 Pro plan becomes necessary.
Well, the threshold is entirely dictated by professional friction. You should only pay when the AI's structural limitations become a literal bottleneck to your income or your daily productivity.
You pay for the friction removal. I mean, if you are an independent contractor and having to wait until midnight for your image generation quota to reset is actively delaying a client delivery, you upgrade.
Exactly.
If you are a software developer and the 32K context window keeps causing the AI to forget the variables you defined earlier in the code, breaking your application, you upgrade.
The moment the tool shifts from being an experimental assistant to a load-bearing pillar of your business operations, that $19 monthly fee pays for itself in reclaimed hours.
Let the technology work for you rather than adapting your schedule to fit Google's free quotas.
Precisely.
So, looking at the entire landscape of 2026, here is the immediate game plan. Start entirely on the free tier. Push Gemini 3 Flash to its absolute limits in your daily workflow.
And when you inevitably hit the invisible wall,
Which you will.
take 10 minutes to learn the interface of Google AI Studio and see if the massive 1,500 prompt allowance on the developer models solves your volume issue.
Also, verify your eligibility for academic programs to see if you can secure the premium tiers at no cost. And utilize specialized tools like Notebook LM for heavy reading rather than burning your primary conversational quotas.
Good advice.
And as you use these tools, visualize the physical mechanics. Every time you ask a complex question, specialized models are waking up, GPUs are pulling electricity, and data centers are venting heat. We challenge you to test this reality today. Try building an entire multi-day travel itinerary, flights, hotel comparisons, scheduling, generating concept images of the destination using strictly the free tools.
Yeah, watch how the model allocates memory and see exactly where the architecture forces you to stop.
Right.
Because pushing the system to failure is the fastest way to understand its true capacity.
But before we sign off, there is one final dynamic we need to leave you with, and it circles back to the very reason Google is offering this buffet in the first place.
The data.
Exactly. We established that providing free access is a loss leader strategy designed to harvest anonymized data and build habituation.
And that continuous loop of data collection is what trains the future models.
So think about the massive mixture of experts architecture. If maintaining this global infrastructure requires such staggering, hyper-expensive physical computing power, if the server farms are burning through so much electricity and cooling water that even a conglomerate like Google has to strictly throttle the millions of consumers using it, well, it forces a critical evaluation of what we are trading for that access.
It really does. What does that reality reveal about the intrinsic value of the data you are providing?
Right. Your daily questions, your complex workflows, the creative prompts you feed into the machine, and the grand economic exchange of 2026, are you truly utilizing a free product?
Are you actually paying for server time with a currency that the tech industry values far, far more than a $19.99 monthly subscription?
Exactly. Something to mull over the next time you let the AI summarize your inbox.